Commander Vex stared at the old datapad in his hands. The symbols on it were ancient, barely readable after thousands of years. He was a Krathari, a species known across the galaxy for their excellent military service. His blue skin reflected the dim lights of his ship's research lab. Today, he was not acting as a soldier. Today, he was chasing a legend. "Do you really believe this nonsense?" Captain Zarn asked from the doorway. The pilot was younger than Vex, and he had little patience for old stories. "We're wasting fuel and time on a myth." Vex looked up from the datapad. "The Galactic Council doesn't send expeditions to investigate myths. These energy readings from the Sol system are real." Dr. Kira walked between them, her 6 arms carrying various scanning devices. She was excited, as always, when it came to ancient history. "The humans were real," she said firmly. "Every old civilization has records of them. They just vanished before they could reach the stars." "They destroyed themselves," Zarn said with a shrug. "Nuclear war. It's what aggressive species do." The journey to the Sol system took 3 weeks. During that time, Vex read everything he could find about humans. The records were scattered and incomplete. Some described them as brilliant engineers. Others called them fierce warriors. A few claimed they had unusual endurance and could survive in harsh environments. But all the records agreed on one thing: humanity had gone silent over 2,000 years ago. When their ship finally approached the system, the sensors showed nothing unusual at first. 8 planets orbited a yellow star. The third planet, Earth, appeared on their screens. It was blue and green, covered in water and plant life. "That's strange," Dr. Kira said, studying her instruments. "The planet shows signs of a stable ecosystem. If there was a nuclear war, we should see radiation signatures." Before anyone could respond, every system on their ship shut down. The lights went dark. The engines stopped. Even the backup generators failed to activate. The crew floated in darkness for several terrifying seconds. Then the lights came back on, but they were different. Red emergency lighting filled the corridors. A voice spoke through their communication system. It was speaking in perfect galactic standard, the common language of the Council. "Unknown vessel, you have entered restricted space. Power down all weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any hostile action will result in your destruction." Captain Zarn's hands flew over his controls. "I can't move the ship. Something is holding us in place." Vex felt his heart beating faster. He moved to the window and looked outside. What he saw made his blood run cold. 5 ships surrounded them, each one larger than any vessel he had ever seen. Their design was strange, angular, and aggressive. Weapons ports covered their hulls. But it was the symbol on their sides that shocked him most. A blue planet with green continents surrounded by stars. The symbol from the ancient records. The symbol of humanity. "This is impossible," Zarn whispered. "They're supposed to be dead." A docking tube extended from the nearest human ship and attached to their hull. Vex heard the airlock cycle open. He straightened his uniform and walked toward the entrance, leaving his weapon behind. If these were truly humans, and they had this kind of technology, fighting would be suicide. The airlock door opened. 2 figures stepped through, wearing dark uniforms with the same planetary symbol on their shoulders. They were tall, with smooth skin in various shades of brown and pink. Their eyes were forward-facing, marking them as predators. Both carried weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. "Commander Vex," the female said. Her voice was calm but firm. "I'm Director Kate Morrison. This is Admiral Jake Collins. Welcome to Gateway Alpha. We have much to discuss." They were taken through the docking tube into a massive space station. The interior was clean and advanced, filled with technology that made the Council's best engineering look primitive. Hundreds of humans moved through the corridors, all with purpose and efficiency. Vex noticed that many wore military uniforms. Director Morrison led them to a conference room with large windows. Through the glass, Vex could see Earth below, exactly as it appeared in the ancient images. Cities glowed on the night side of the planet. Orbital platforms dotted the space around it. This was not a dead world. This was a thriving civilization. "You're real," Dr. Kira said, her voice filled with wonder. "Humanity still exists." Admiral Collins smiled, though the expression didn't reach his eyes. "We've always existed. We just chose not to introduce ourselves to the galaxy." "Why?" Vex asked. "The Galactic Council welcomes all species." Morrison and Collins exchanged a look. Then Morrison activated a holographic display. It showed intercepted Council transmissions from 200 years ago. Vex watched in growing horror as he saw his own government crushing rebellions, forcing smaller species into servitude, and destroying those who refused to comply. "We achieved faster-than-light travel in 2157, Collins explained. "The first thing we did was listen to galactic communications. We heard everything. The Council is not a democratic union, Commander. It's an empire that rules through fear." "We decided to remain hidden," Morrison continued. "We built our colonies in secret. We developed our technology without interference, and we watched. We've been watching the galaxy for over 2 centuries, waiting to see if the Council would change." Zarn spoke up, his voice shaking. "How many ships do you have?" Collins walked to the window and looked out at the stars. "Enough. When we reveal ourselves to the Council, we want them to understand one thing clearly. Humanity will never bow to anyone." Vex felt the weight of this discovery settling on his shoulders. He was a loyal soldier, but he was not blind. He knew the Council's history. He had followed orders he disagreed with. And now he stood face to face with a species that had the power to change everything. "What happens now?" he asked. Morrison looked at him steadily. "Now, Commander, you get to make a choice. You can report back to the Council honestly about what you found here. Tell them humanity exists and wants peaceful contact, but only as equals. Or—" She paused. "You can lie and say you found nothing." Vex knew what she was really asking. Would he be part of the old system or the beginning of something new? His choice would shape the future of the entire galaxy. Commander Vex chose honesty. He returned to the Galactic Council and reported everything he had seen. Within hours, the news spread across thousands of worlds. Humanity was real. Humanity was advanced. And humanity had been hiding from the Council for 200 years. High Magistrate Theron was ancient, even by galactic standards. His species lived for thousands of years, and he had ruled the Council for 6 centuries. He sat on his throne in the Grand Chamber, surrounded by representatives from hundreds of worlds. His face showed no emotion as he listened to Vex's report, but his eyes burned with anger. "Unacceptable," Theron said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "No species may exist outside Council authority. This humanity must submit to our laws immediately." Ambassador Lisa Chen stood before the Council 3 days later. She was young for a human diplomat, only 40 years old, but she carried herself with confidence. Beside her stood General Ryan Foster, a military officer with gray hair and stern features. Behind them, holographic images of Earth rotated slowly. "The human species greets the Galactic Council with respect," Lisa began. "We offer friendship, trade, and cultural exchange. We wish to learn from you and share what we have learned. However, we will not submit to Council governance. Earth and her colonies will remain independent and sovereign." The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. No species had ever refused the Council. Not in living memory. Theron leaned forward on his throne. "You do not understand your position, Ambassador. The Council maintains peace across 10,000 worlds. We have laws that all species must follow. We have taxes that all species must pay. We have military obligations that all species must fulfill. You cannot simply choose which rules apply to you." Lisa met his gaze without flinching. "With respect, High Magistrate, Humanity chooses all of our own rules. We have reviewed your laws and find many of them unjust. We have examined your tax system and see that it favors the powerful over the weak. We have studied your military campaigns and witnessed unnecessary cruelty. We will not be part of this system. Then you will be crushed, Theron said simply. You have 30 standard days to reconsider. If you do not submit, the Council will classify you as a rogue element. We will send our grand fleet to your system. You will be given one chance to surrender peacefully. If you refuse, your species will be eliminated as a warning to others who might consider defiance. Lisa and Ryan left the chamber in silence. As they walked through the corridors of the council station, a young diplomat approached them carefully. Her name was Mira, and she represented a small species that had suffered under council rule for generations. "Ambassador Chen," Mira whispered, looking around nervously. "May I speak with you privately?" They met in Lisa's quarters an hour later. Mira explained that she led a secret group within the council who opposed Theron's authoritarian methods. They were small and powerless, but they represented dozens of species who were tired of living under the council's boot. "We want to help you," Mira said, "but we need to know the truth. Can humanity really stand against the Grand Fleet? Theron will send 5,000 warships, the largest military force assembled in 1,000 years. If you fight and lose, the Council will use your defeat to tighten their control over everyone." Lisa looked at Ryan, who nodded slightly. She turned back to Mira and activated a secure data pad. On its screen appeared star maps, fleet deployments, and technical specifications that made Mira's eyes widen in disbelief. "We can stand," Lisa said quietly. "Humanity has prepared for this moment since the day we first heard council transmissions. Every human knows what's at stake. We will not attack first, but we will defend ourselves. And Mira, when this is over, the council will never be the same." On Earth, President Alex Martinez stood in the operations center deep beneath the capital city. Holographic displays showed every human ship in the solar system and beyond. Admiral Jake Collins stood beside her, his hands clasped behind his back. "Operation Revelation is ready," Collins reported. "Every ship is in position. Every crew is prepared. The civilians have been evacuated to the underground cities. We can begin final preparations whenever you give the order." Alex looked at the displays showing Earth from space. It was so beautiful, so peaceful. She thought about the billions of people depending on her decisions. She thought about the thousands of pilots who would fly into battle. She thought about the future of her entire species. "How confident are you?" "Admiral?" she asked. Collins considered the question carefully. "The Council has numbers, but they're spread across the galaxy. They rely on fear and overwhelming force against weaker opponents. They've never faced an enemy with our technology, our training, or our motivation. Their ships are designed to intimidate. Ours are designed to win." "And civilian casualties on their side?" "General Megan Torres has designed the battle plan to minimize enemy deaths," Collins assured her. "We'll target weapons and engines, not life support. We'll disable rather than destroy whenever possible. But Alex, we need them to understand our strength completely. No half measures, no warnings. When they arrive, we reveal everything." Alex took a deep breath and made her decision. "Give the order. Prepare the fleet." Across human space, 10,000 warships received their final orders. Captains briefed their crews. Engineers checked every system one last time. Pilots climbed into their fighters and bombers. On the carrier Resolute, Captain Claire Bennett gathered her squadron commanders for a final meeting. On the destroyer Defiant, Captain Ben Murphy recorded a message for his family just in case. In the colonies beyond Earth, families watched the news broadcasts nervously. Everyone knew what was coming. The Council had given them 30 days and 29 had passed. Tomorrow, the Grand Fleet would arrive. Tomorrow, humanity would reveal itself to the galaxy. General Megan Torres stood in the tactical center, studying the three-dimensional battlefield displays. She had spent 2 years planning this engagement, every ship position, every firing solution, every backup plan had been calculated and recalculated. Her officers waited for her final assessment. "They'll come in confidently," she said. "They'll expect token resistance. When we reveal our full strength, there will be a moment of shock. That's when the battle will be decided. If they're smart, they'll surrender immediately. If they're proud, they'll try to fight. Either way, by sunset tomorrow, the galaxy will know that humanity is not a myth. We're real, we're strong, and we will not be conquered." The 30 days ended at midnight, Galactic Standard Time. As the clocks struck the new day, the Council's Grand Fleet entered the edge of the Sol system. 5,000 warships, representing the combined military might of dozens of species, began their journey toward Earth. They expected an easy victory. They expected humanity to beg for mercy. They expected to make history as the conquerors of the legendary ghost species. What they got instead would become the most significant military engagement in galactic history, and it would last exactly 17 minutes. Fleetmaster Drovok sat in his command chair aboard the Council flagship Eternal Justice. He was a veteran of 43 campaigns, and he had never lost a battle. The tactical display before him showed his 5,000 ships moving in perfect formation toward the inner planets of the Sol system. Everything was going according to plan. Long-range sensors detect approximately 300 human vessels, his tactical officer reported. They appear to be defensive formations around the third planet. Drovok nodded with satisfaction. 300 against 5,000. The humans would surrender quickly once they understood the situation. Perhaps they would even be grateful that the Council was being merciful. "Open a channel to the human forces," Drovok commanded. Before his communication officer could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. The tactical display started filling with new contacts, not dozens, not hundreds, thousands. "Sir, sensors are detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system," the tactical officer said, his voice rising in panic. "Ships are appearing everywhere. I'm counting 2,000, 4,000, 6,000. Captain Ben Murphy sat in the command chair of the destroyer Defiant. Around him, his crew worked with calm efficiency. They had trained for this moment their entire careers. On his display, he watched the Council fleet's formation begin to waver as their sensors picked up the human armada. "All ships, drop stealth fields on my mark," he said into his communication system. 3, 2, 1, mark. Across the Sol system, 10,000 human warships dropped their stealth fields simultaneously. Dreadnoughts the size of cities appeared above and below the Council fleet. Carriers launched thousands of fighter craft. Destroyers and frigates formed a perfect sphere around the enemy vessels. In less than 30 seconds, the Council's Grand Fleet found itself completely surrounded. On the Eternal Justice, chaos erupted. Officers shouted conflicting reports. The tactical display showed red enemy contacts in every direction. Drovok felt his stomach twist with a fear he had not experienced in decades. This was impossible. The intelligence report said humanity had a few hundred ships at most. A transmission came through on all frequencies. A human face appeared on every screen throughout the Council fleet. The man wore a dark uniform with silver stars on his shoulders. His expression was calm, but firm. "Council forces, this is Admiral Jake Collins of the United Earth Defense Force. You are surrounded by 10,000 warships. We have weapons locked on every ship in your fleet. Power down your weapons and engines immediately. You have 5 minutes to comply." Drovok found his voice. "This is Fleetmaster Drovok. You cannot possibly have 10,000 ships. Your species was barely discovered a month ago." Collins smiled slightly. "We've been building this fleet for 200 years, Fleetmaster. Every ship you see is crewed by humans who volunteered to defend their home. Every weapon system has been tested and refined. Every captain knows exactly what to do. We have trained for this battle since we were children. Now, you have 4 minutes to power down. Drovak looked at his tactical officer. How many ships do they really have? Sensors confirm 10,043 vessels, sir. Their formation is perfect. They have us completely boxed in. I've never seen tactical positioning this precise. Admiral Collins stood on the bridge of the flagship Liberty, watching the Council fleet on his displays. General Megan Torres stood beside him, monitoring the battle readiness of every human ship. So far, the plan was working perfectly. The enemy was surrounded, shocked, and hopefully intelligent enough to surrender. Communications from several Council ships, an officer reported. They're asking their fleet master for orders. Give them another minute, Collins said. Let the reality sink in. On the carrier Resolute, Captain Claire Bennett prepared her fighter wings. If the Council chose to fight, her squadrons would target the enemy command ships first. Her pilots were ready, though she hoped it wouldn't come to violence. Every Council ship that was destroyed meant hundreds or thousands of alien lives lost. Fleetmaster Drovak made his decision. He had not survived 43 campaigns by being foolish. The humans had outmaneuvered him completely. Retreat was impossible. They were surrounded. Fighting would result in the destruction of his entire fleet. The only logical choice was surrender. All ships. Power down weapons and engines, he ordered. Prepare to negotiate terms of... Before he could finish, 3 hardline Council warships from the rear of the formation opened fire. Their captains were old warriors who could not accept defeat. They had spent their lives believing in Council superiority. The idea that humans could threaten them was too much to bear. Their weapons struck the nearest human destroyers. Shields flared bright with absorbed energy. On the bridge of the Liberty, alarms sounded. Multiple hostiles have opened fire, the tactical officer reported. 3 Council cruisers breaking formation and attacking our defensive line. Admiral Collins felt a moment of sadness. They had tried to avoid bloodshed. Now these fools had made it inevitable. All ships, return fire. Disable those 3 vessels immediately. All other Council ships are to maintain their positions, or they will be treated as hostile. The human response was swift and devastating. 20 destroyers focused their fire on the 3 attacking cruisers. Railguns fired projectiles at a fraction of light speed. Plasma lances cut through shields like paper. Quantum disruptors destabilized the enemy vessel's power systems. In less than 20 seconds, all 3 Council ships were dead in space, their weapons destroyed, their engines offline, but their life support intact. Aboard the Eternal Justice, Drovak watched in horror as the 3 ships were neutralized before his tactical display could even finish processing what was happening. The humans hadn't destroyed them. They had disabled them with surgical precision. That level of accuracy, that level of coordination, should have been impossible. All remaining ships, stand down immediately, Drovak ordered frantically. Do not fire! Do not fire! But the battle had begun, and some Council captains chose to fight rather than surrender. Over the next 17 minutes, chaos spread through the Council formation. Ships that attempted to flee were surrounded and disabled. Ships that opened fire were eliminated with ruthless efficiency. Ships that powered down and surrendered were left untouched. Captain Ben Murphy watched from the Defiant as a Council battlecruiser tried to break through the human lines. 6 human destroyers moved to intercept. Their weapons fire was coordinated so perfectly that each shot hit the enemy vessel in exactly the right location. Engines disabled, weapon systems destroyed, communication arrays taken offline. The battlecruiser drifted helplessly, but everyone aboard was still alive. On the carrier Resolute, Captain Claire Bennett launched her fighter wings to intercept enemy bombers attempting to reach Earth. Her pilots moved like a swarm, overwhelming the enemy craft with superior numbers and technology. Lieutenant Kyle Harrison, flying lead in his squadron, noticed a damaged council fighter spinning out of control. He broke formation, matched velocity with the enemy ship, and used his tractor beam to stabilize it until rescue craft could arrive. Throughout the battlefield, humans fought with overwhelming force, but also with unexpected restraint. They targeted weapons and engines, not crew compartments. They disabled rather than destroyed whenever possible. They rescued enemy pilots from damaged craft. This was not a war of extermination. This was a message. Admiral Collins watched the battle unfold exactly as General Torres had predicted. The Council fleet was being systematically taken apart. Their formations were breaking. Their morale was collapsing. It was time to end this. Fleetmaster Drovok, this is Admiral Collins, he broadcast. Order your remaining ships to stand down now, or we will disable every vessel in your fleet. You have 30 seconds. Drovok did not hesitate. All ships, cease fire. Power down all weapons. This is a direct order from Fleetmaster Drovok. Stop fighting immediately. Slowly, the Council ships began to comply. Weapons powered down. Engines went offline. The Great Grand Fleet, the most powerful military force in the galaxy, surrendered to a species they had believed was a myth. When the last shot was fired, the battlefield fell silent. Of the 5,000 Council ships, nearly 800 were disabled. 300 had been destroyed when their crews refused to surrender. The rest were damaged, but intact. Human casualties were minimal. 43 ships damaged, 5 destroyed, less than 200 dead. Admiral Collins broadcast on all frequencies. His message transmitted not just to the defeated fleet, but to every Council world. The human species offers mercy to all Council forces. We will provide medical aid to your wounded. We will respect the lives of your prisoners. We will allow safe passage home to all who wish it. But understand this. Earth's sovereignty is absolute and non-negotiable. Any future aggression against humanity or our colonies will be met with the full strength of our Armada. We did not seek this conflict. But we will win any conflict that comes to us. Go home. Tell your leaders what you saw here today. Tell them the age of Council dominance is over. The silence after the battle was heavier than the combat itself. Fleetmaster Drovok sat alone in his command chair, staring at the tactical display that showed his defeated fleet. Around him, his crew worked quietly to restore damaged systems. No one spoke unless necessary. The shame of defeat hung over them like a dark cloud. A transmission came through from the human flagship Liberty. Admiral Collins appeared on the screen, his expression serious but not cruel. Fleetmaster, we are sending medical teams to assist your wounded. Our rescue ships are already recovering survivors from destroyed vessels. We request permission to board your damaged ships to provide aid. Drovok felt a strange mixture of gratitude and humiliation. The species that had just defeated him was now offering help. Permission granted, he said quietly. Admiral, I have been a soldier for 70 years. I have fought in 43 campaigns. I have never seen anything like what your forces just did. Your technology, your tactics, your coordination. We had no chance. Collins nodded slowly. We spent 200 years preparing for this day, Fleetmaster. Every human who serves in our military understands what's at stake. We fight to protect our freedom, not to conquer others. I hope your leaders will understand the difference. Over the next hours, human medical ships moved through the wreckage of the battle. Dr. Sophie Grant led a team aboard one of the heavily damaged Council cruisers. The interior was dark and filled with smoke. Injured aliens lay in the corridors, some crying out in pain, others unconscious. Get the portable generators running first, Sophie ordered her team. Then set up triage in the main cargo bay. Anyone critical goes to our ship immediately. One of the alien crew members, a young officer with green skin, stared at Sophie with fear and confusion. Why are you helping us? We came here to conquer you. Sophie looked at him as she worked to stabilize an injured soldier. Because you're living beings who need help. What your government ordered you to do doesn't change that. Now hold this bandage in place while I prepare the transport. On Earth, President Alex Martinez addressed the planet from the operations center. Her face appeared on every screen across all human colonies. She looked tired but relieved. Behind her, holographic displays showed the aftermath of the battle. Today, humanity proved we can defend ourselves, she began. But we also proved something more important. We showed that strength doesn't require cruelty. We showed that we can win without becoming monsters. Every human who served in today's battle did so knowing they might not come home. 5 ships were lost. 187 brave souls gave their lives defending Earth and our colonies. We will honor their sacrifice. We will remember their names, and we will make sure their deaths lead to a better future for everyone. General Megan Torres stood in the tactical center, coordinating the massive humanitarian effort. Human ships were evacuating wounded Council soldiers, providing food and medical supplies, and beginning repairs on disabled vessels. It was a logistical nightmare, but Torres managed it with the same precision she had used to plan the battle. Status report, she requested from her staff. We've recovered 94% of survivors from destroyed ships, an officer reported. Medical teams are operating on all heavily damaged vessels. The Council fleet is requesting permission to leave the system with their wounded. The disabled ships will need at least 3 weeks of repairs before they're space-worthy. Torres considered this. Grant permission for the undamaged ships to leave. Tell them we'll send the repaired vessels home as soon as they're safe to fly. Keep armed escorts nearby, but make it clear we're not holding prisoners. Anyone who wants to leave can go. On the Council homeworld, High Magistrate Theron watched the battle recordings for the 5th time. Each viewing made him more certain of what was coming. His reign was over. The Council he had ruled for 6 centuries was collapsing around him. Already, his political enemies were gathering support for a vote of no confidence. Councillor Mira stood before the emergency session of the Council Assembly. Behind her, holographic images showed the defeated Grand Fleet and human ships providing aid to wounded Council soldiers. The contrast was devastating. For 6 centuries, High Magistrate Theron has told us that strength requires fear, Mira said to the gathered representatives. He said we must dominate others or be dominated ourselves. He said mercy was weakness. Today we learned he was wrong about everything. The humans defeated our Grand Fleet in 17 minutes. They could have destroyed every ship. They could have killed everyone aboard. Instead, they chose mercy. They chose to show us that real strength comes from justice, not tyranny. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some representatives defended Theron, claiming the humans were just trying to deceive the Council before launching their own conquest. Others agreed with Mira that fundamental change was necessary. The debate raged for hours. Theron finally stood from his throne. The chamber fell silent. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with bitter acceptance. I resign my position as High Magistrate, effective immediately. The Council will elect a new leader. I recommend Councillor Mira. She seems to understand this new galaxy better than I do. The vote happened that same day. Mira became the youngest High Magistrate in Council history. Her first act was to send a message to Earth, requesting peace negotiations. Ambassador Lisa Chen received the message while coordinating relief efforts. She read it twice to make sure she understood correctly. The Council was requesting peace talks, not demanding surrender, requesting negotiations. It was exactly what humanity had hoped for. General Foster, we got the message we were waiting for, she said, showing him the transmission. The Council wants to negotiate. Mira is now in charge, and she's asking for a meeting on neutral ground. Ryan Foster smiled for the first time since the battle began. Then we'd better prepare our diplomatic team. This is going to be even harder than the fighting was. Winning the peace always is. On the destroyer Defiant, Captain Ben Murphy visited the medical bay where injured council soldiers were being treated alongside human wounded. One alien, a HFY warrior named Vex, recognized him. "You," Vex said weakly. He had been injured when his ship was hit during the battle. "You commanded one of the destroyers that disabled my vessel." Ben nodded. "I did. I'm sorry you were hurt. Our goal was to stop the fighting, not to kill people." Vex studied the human captain carefully. "I was part of the expedition that first discovered your species. I reported your existence to the Council. In some ways, I started this war." "No," Ben said firmly. "High Magistrate Theron started this war when he demanded we surrender our freedom. You just did your duty as a soldier. Now you get to go home and help build something better." In the week following the battle, humanity's actions spoke louder than any words. They repaired damaged council ships using their advanced technology. They shared medical techniques that saved thousands of lives. They treated prisoners with respect and returned them home without conditions. Every action was designed to send a clear message. Humanity wanted partnership, not conquest. Admiral Jake Collins stood on the observation deck of Gateway Alpha, watching the last of the Council fleet prepare to leave the Sol system. Beside him stood Dr. Nathan Pierce, a xenosociologist who would be part of the diplomatic mission. "Do you think this will actually lead to peace?" Nathan asked. Collins was quiet for a moment. "I think we've shown them that the old system doesn't work anymore. Whether they choose to build something better is up to them. But at least now they know they can't bully humanity. That's a start." Below them, Earth rotated peacefully, its blue oceans and green continents visible through the clouds. Millions of humans went about their daily lives, most of them unaware of how close they had come to war. The cities glowed in the darkness. The space stations orbited steadily. Life continued, as it always did. The battle had lasted 17 minutes. The victory had taken 200 years of preparation. But the real work was just beginning. Now humanity had to prove they could turn military victory into lasting peace. They had to show the galaxy that their strength came not from weapons, but from principles worth fighting for. The question was whether the rest of the galaxy was ready to listen. 3 months after the battle, representatives from across the galaxy gathered at a newly constructed station called Horizon Point. The station floated in neutral space, exactly halfway between Earth and the Council homeworld. Its design was a collaboration between human and alien engineers, a symbol of what cooperation might achieve. Ambassador Lisa Chen arrived with a small delegation. Admiral Jake Collins accompanied her, along with Dr. Nathan Pierce and several other experts in diplomacy, science, and military strategy. As their shuttle docked, Lisa felt the weight of history on her shoulders. The decisions made here would shape the galaxy for generations. The main conference chamber was enormous, designed to accommodate representatives from hundreds of different species. Counselor Mira, now High Magistrate, waited at the central platform. She looked nervous but determined. Around her sat delegates from every major council species, all watching the humans with a mixture of fear, curiosity, and hope. "Ambassador Chen, welcome to Horizon Point," Mira said formally. "Thank you for agreeing to these negotiations. I know trust is difficult after what happened, but I hope we can build something new together." Lisa stepped forward and gave a slight bow, a human gesture of respect. "High Magistrate Mira, humanity comes here with open hearts and open minds. We seek peace, but we will settle for nothing less than equality. No species should rule over others. No government should demand submission. If the Council can accept that principle, then we can work together." The negotiations began immediately. The first days were tense and difficult. Many Council species feared humanity's military power. Others resented being forced to change their ways. Some delegates argued that the old system, despite its flaws, had maintained stability for thousands of years. Commander Vex, The Krathari officer who had first discovered humanity became an unexpected voice for change. He stood before the assembly and described what he had seen at Gateway Alpha. He spoke about human technology, their military discipline, and most importantly, their commitment to defending freedom without crushing others. "I fought in the battle at Earth," Vex told the gathered delegates. "I watched my ship disabled in seconds. I thought I would die. Instead, human medical teams boarded my vessel and saved my life. They treated our wounded with the same care they gave their own soldiers. I have spent my career serving the Council, following orders without question. But after seeing what humanity has built, I must ask, what kind of society do we want to be? One ruled by fear, or one based on justice?" His words sparked intense debate. Dr. Kira, the xenoarchaeologist who had been part of Vex's original expedition, presented archaeological evidence that challenged everything the Council believed about its own history. She showed records from ancient civilizations that had been erased from official histories, species that had refused to submit and were destroyed, technologies that had been suppressed to maintain Council power. "The Council tells us that submission is necessary for peace," Kira said, her voice shaking with emotion. "But peace built on oppression is not real peace. It's just delayed violence. Humanity understood this, which is why they chose isolation over submission. Maybe we should learn from them." The breakthrough came in the second week of negotiations. Humanity offered to share technologies that would benefit everyone. Not weapons, but medical advances that could cure diseases affecting dozens of species, agricultural techniques that could feed hungry worlds, clean energy systems that would end dependence on polluting fuels. Dr. Sophie Grant, the human physician who had treated wounded Council soldiers after the battle, gave a presentation on human medical technology. She showed treatments for genetic disorders, techniques for regenerating damaged tissue, and cures for diseases that had plagued the galaxy for millennia. "We developed these technologies during our isolation," Sophie explained. "We could have kept them secret, using them only for ourselves, but what's the point of knowledge if it doesn't help others? We're offering to share everything, freely and without conditions. All we ask is that you recognize our sovereignty and treat us as equals." The impact was immediate. Species that had suffered from incurable plagues suddenly saw hope. Worlds struggling to feed their populations had a solution. The human offer wasn't just diplomatic strategy, it was genuine generosity. Captain Emma Sanders, a former colony ship commander, presented proposals for joint human-alien colonies, places where different species could live together, learn from each other, and build something new. She showed designs for habitats that could accommodate various atmospheric and gravitational requirements. She outlined cultural exchange programs and educational initiatives. "Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy," Emma said. "We want to be part of it. We want to explore together, discover together, grow together. The universe is vast enough for all of us. We don't need to fight over territory or resources. We need to work together to survive and thrive." General Ryan Foster addressed the military concerns directly. Many Council species feared that humanity's superior technology would make them vulnerable to conquest. Foster proposed a mutual defense pact where humanity would protect smaller species from aggressive powers, but would never govern them. "Our military exists to defend freedom, not to take it away," Foster explained. "If any species is threatened by invasion or oppression, humanity will stand with them. But we will never occupy your worlds. We will never demand tribute. We will never force you to follow our laws. True security comes from cooperation, not domination." The negotiations continued for another month. Slowly, painfully, a new framework emerged. The Galactic Council would be reorganized as a true cooperative body. Each species would have equal representation regardless of size or military power. Decisions would require majority agreement, not dictates from a single ruler. The Council military would be transformed from a tool of conquest into a genuine peacekeeping force. Humanity would join the Council as full members with all the rights and responsibilities that entailed. They would contribute to collective defense, participate in scientific research, and engage in cultural exchange. But they would retain complete sovereignty over Earth and human colonies. No Council law would supersede human self-governance. The final vote happened on a clear morning, with delegates from every Council species present. One by one, they cast their votes for the new treaty. When the last vote was counted, the result was clear. The Treaty of Horizon was approved by an overwhelming majority. High Magistrate Mira and Ambassador Lisa Chen signed the official documents in a ceremony broadcast across the galaxy. As they pressed their marks to the treaty, thousands of worlds watched. The galaxy would never be the same. In the weeks following the treaty signing, the changes began. Trade routes opened between Earth and hundreds of alien worlds. Human ships, once hidden, now traveled freely through the galaxy. The first joint colonies were established, with humans and aliens living side by side. Cultural exchange programs brought alien students to Earth and human students to distant worlds. Admiral Jake Collins watched from the observation deck of Gateway Alpha as ships from dozens of species docked peacefully at the station. Beside him, Counselor Mira had come to visit Earth for the first time. She stared at the planet below with wonder. "It's beautiful," Mira said softly. "I understand now why you fought so hard to protect it. Every species deserves to feel this way about their home." Collins smiled. "The galaxy is better when every species can stand proud instead of bowing in fear. We didn't reveal ourselves to conquer anyone, Mira. We revealed ourselves to show that a better way is possible." "Do you think it will last?" Mira asked. "This peace we've built?" "That depends on all of us," Collins replied. "Humanity will do our part. We'll defend the weak, share what we know, and work toward a future where force is the last resort instead of the first. But we can't do it alone. Every species needs to choose cooperation over domination. That's the only way forward." Below them, Earth continued its endless rotation. Cities glowed with life. Space stations orbited peacefully. Ships from a dozen different species moved through the Sol system, no longer as invaders, but as visitors and friends. Children played in parks, unaware that they were growing up in a galaxy their parents and grandparents had fought to make safe. On distant worlds, alien children learned about humanity in their schools. They studied human history, human art, human philosophy. Some dreamed of visiting Earth someday. Others wanted to study at human universities or serve on joint exploration missions. The myth had become reality, and that reality was more hopeful than anyone had imagined. The battle at Earth had lasted 17 minutes. The victory had taken 200 years to prepare. But the peace being built would require the effort of generations. It would demand constant vigilance, endless patience, and unwavering commitment to principles over power. Humanity had revealed itself not with a whimper, but with an overwhelming show of force. They had proven they could defend themselves against any threat. But more importantly, they had proven they would use their strength to lift others up rather than push them down. They had shown the galaxy that real power comes not from making others afraid, but from giving others hope. As Admiral Collins turned away from the window, he thought about the future. There would be challenges ahead. Not every species would accept the new order peacefully. Some would test humanity's resolve. Others would seek to exploit the changing situation. But humanity had waited 200 years for this moment. They had prepared carefully, and they would see it through. The myth had become reality. The legend had stepped into the light. And the galaxy, for better or worse, would have to adjust to a new truth. Humanity was real, humanity was strong, and humanity would never bow to anyone. The age of submission was over. The age of cooperation had begun. and it had all started with 10,000 ships commanding the skies, showing the universe that some principles were worth fighting for, and that freedom was a right that belonged to everyone.